Today we're here with Dana Hicks, Honorary Consul of Canada in Charlotte. Dana, thanks for joining us here today.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Great. Now, a lot of people out there, they're certainly aware of consulates, and maybe you can first of all share the difference between what an honorary consul position is and some of the consulates that are scattered around the U.S.
Sure, you bet. Honorary consuls are the result of a piece of legislation called the Enhanced Representation Initiative, abbreviated ERI. That was passed, I think, back in the year 2004 by the Canadian Parliament. And what that did was recognize that there were cities and metropolitan areas in the U.S. and other countries where there weren't an embassy or a consulate general or a consulate, but yet there were clusters of important businesses and potential investment targets for Canada. Over the course of the last few years, there have been 15 honorary consuls, honorary Canadian consuls named in the United States. I was the 13th of 15 appointed. And we have honorary consuls in places like Richmond, Virginia, Tampa, Florida, where I am, Charlotte, San Antonio, Texas, Memphis, Tennessee, all the way to the West Coast, Salt Lake City, and out on the West Coast. The difference is we are all business people. We're business owners, in some cases attorneys, accountants, consultants, and we are honorary consuls, meaning we are not lifetime diplomats or civil servants of the Canadian government, but instead share some passion or love or affinity for Canada, Canadian businesses, and Canadians in general. As far as roles, honorary consuls are predominantly, I would say our activities fall into three major categories. One would be business development, and that's on behalf of Canadian businesses, so helping them export, or Canadian investment attraction. The investment attraction would be a second aspect, and then finally advocacy. And advocacy would be any range of issues that are important and critical to the Canadian government or to Canadian businesses. Raising awareness about concerns on the thickening of the border, for example. Raising awareness about possible interruptions in key supply chains due to Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative or other types of legislation being passed by the U.S.
Are there two or three industries that are kind of top of mind right now in terms of trade between Canada and the U.S. that you're looking at?
Well, it's certainly dependent upon the region or the state. I can speak for Charlotte. Absolutely, banking and financial services. I mean, we think of Charlotte, it's the second largest banking and financial center in the United States based on volume of assets or amount of assets under management, as well as market capitalization of the companies. Of course, Bank of America, the largest bank in the U.S., is headquartered in Charlotte. Formerly Wachovia, now Wells Fargo, recently acquired Wachovia, is also there. And you have a number of mid-market banks that are in the 5th to 20th largest banks that have significant operations and presence there. Fifth Third Bank, branch banking and trust, GMAC and Ally Bank, their commercial banking group of GMAC has established its headquarters in Charlotte. So banking and financial services is one very key important sector. Another key important sector would be automotive and, by extension, motorsports. Charlotte is the de facto NASCAR capital. I mean, the statistic that our economic developers use is that 80 or 90% of NASCAR teams are located within a 50-mile radius of Charlotte, North Carolina. And while the temptation is to think, okay, Bubba's going to go watch a race, it's a significant economic impact. North Carolina did a study in the last few years about the economic impact of motorsports, broadly defined motorsports. And their estimate, based on the races, the fans, the race teams, the jobs they create, the precision machine parts and suppliers to those, it's a $6 billion industry in the state of North Carolina. And then the final one that comes to mind would be biotech and life science. Again, a lot of, certainly, Research Triangle Park is a recognized center and cluster for high-tech, life sciences, biotech. But in Charlotte, we've got a couple of emerging areas of specialization, bioinformatics, for example, and the North Carolina Research Campus in Kannapolis, North Carolina, which they bill as the intersection of agriculture, nutrition, and healthy lifestyle. So those would be the ones that come to mind. There are certainly other industries and sectors that we're involved with, but those are ones that are, I think, of strategic importance as well to the Canadian government and to Canadian companies.
Great. In your discussions with many business people, are there one or two things that maybe surprise them about the relationships between Canada and the U.S.?
Well, one of the things that I would say with Canadian businesses coming here is their discovery, their pleasant discovery of how many Canadian businesses are already here in North Carolina. I mean, the latest statistics would indicate over 90 Canadian-owned companies in the state of North Carolina. And if I look in the greater Charlotte metro area, which is 12 counties in North Carolina and 4 counties in South Carolina, that of those 90, it's 70 of the companies, Canadian-owned companies, are in the Charlotte area. So, for a variety of reasons, Canadian companies have already found the Carolinas to be a very business-friendly and a good location to reach their customers in targeted markets. The other thing I would say is, in general, the limited knowledge of the extent of the U.S.-Canada trading and business relationship. Coming back to my comment earlier about advocacy, that's one of the things that I try to do, talking to groups like the Charlotte World Trade Association, or recently to university audiences at Johnson C. Smith University and UNC Charlotte, about how large and intricate and interconnected the U.S.-Canada and North Carolina-Canada trading and business relationship. Canadians are fully aware of that. It's
right.
Just that the U.S. counterparts, I think, aren't. And when you tell them that Canada is the U.S. largest supplier of energy, whether that's oil or gas or electricity, their reaction is, I didn't know that.
Right.
So,
Well, that's great information, Dana, and I really appreciate your time today, and thanks for joining us.
you bet. Thanks for having me, and enjoy talking to Canadian Expat Network.